Can you briefly describe your practice, the various techniques and media you like to use, and some of the themes you're exploring at the moment or have explored in the past?
Okay.
Tell us about yourself and your art.
Right, so I've been doing art. I've been in arts for 35 years. I sort of equate that to being when I finished art school. When I finished art school in 1995, I thought officially I am an artist now, and I was exhibiting as well. So my first exhibition was in this glass house at art school, and there was like a rude awakening on you can't really have an exhibition in a glass house with paper because all the paper just sort of rolls up and everything. Yeah, I studied printmaking. I did 2 degrees and I did a bachelor's, and then I took 2 years off, went overseas, came back, and then did a master's. But I've always liked to dabble in other mediums, painting, digital. I got into digital stuff sort of in the late 90s, and that's because I had no materials for printmaking and painting. So digital was just like a good time to kind of learn something. So I learned Photoshop and this really early animation software called motion graphics. Yes, it was a motion graphics thing. So I just made all these. Sort of dabbled in digital, Photoshop, and then that sort of moved into. I've always loved animation, but realizing then how hard it is to do animation and how long it is to make something. You've got to spend a whole year on it to make something that's 3 minutes long if you're by yourself. But still in the back of my mind, I've got these ideas for animation. But my core mediums are printmaking and painting, and they recently they've been colliding together, these sort of pieces around us. The ones on wood with the feathers, and instead of printing on paper, which you normally do for printmaking, I'm printing onto boards, so making them originals, and then they turn into mixed media. The red one behind me is I started using mechanical tools instead of chisels because I started using RSI, just that thing of mastering something with wood block, but then realising it's sort of no matter how much you try with chisels, it's always going to usually end up in the same kind of ballpark. Well, that's the kind of way I saw it. So I've always sort of veered off and done painting, and really love monoprints.
Yeah. It's interesting because I really like Ralph Aotearoa,
yeah,
and he did those ones on aluminium, and he uses power tools,
yes,
to get these kind of almost like luminous lighting effects.
Yeah, that's the using grinders and stuff like that. Yeah, so you're using grinders on this, and it's that thing of using grinders and mechanical tools. You can usually only kind of do a few things, but it's the way you do use them. Like you've got lots of grinders and Dremels and stuff, and I used a chainsaw once, but that was dangerous. I remember mates at art school burning things and then trying to set them so they would print, and they'll just disintegrate under the press, and everyone just sort of laughed. Well, it's that thing of boiled down to printmaking. The best thing about printmaking is it's all about texture, and it's just whether it'll print or not. You can use your hand or the press, and that's it just opens you up sort of to the op shops and the tip shop, and even in nature during COVID really got into printing leaves and feathers and anything we could find in the park. I think, and that's probably these kind of feather pieces sort of came about. So it's just that natural sort of rhythm of things, of finding new things to bring into the studio, and then if it doesn't always work, there's some things in that drawer that I never show anyone. But then you kind of some days you look at it going, maybe, and then just sort of another 5 years.
I've seen you using vintage wallpapers, the folk wallpapers and stuff that you're printing as well.
Yeah, so that sort of came around maybe before COVID. I was doing, I had to do a piece for the Australian Print Council, and I wanted to do something different, so I had to actually sit down and plan something, which I don't normally do. I kind of just make things, and then I'll have piles of things at work, and then other piles just stay piles, and then. But this I had to sort of construct. So I just thought about growing up, and my mother had recently passed, so I kind of go, what can I say about my mum? And then I just remember growing up and in the 70s, and you know, the whole house was just this pattern extravaganza, like, you know, sort of wallpaper, and then the carpet, then the lino, and it's just like, it's amazing. You know, it's just the opposite of minimalism. And so I sort of try to do something about that. I could say something about my mum, because she loved patterns and that. So yeah, I found some old wallpaper, then I just started working out how I could use it and print it, and and it became part of the composition.
Can I ask a general question about how do these fascinations, obsessions arise? I mean, what are the kind of triggers that cause a subject or theme to rise up into your mind and go, oh, that needs to become a focus for a piece of art?
It's a really good question. I kind of, when I look back, it looks like I change my ideas and interests every 5 years. It's like a half-decade thing. Yeah, so that first sort of ideas arose from the Gothic nature of Prague, and then I was going through this thing at art school where I kind of didn't know where I fit in because of the mixed heritage of my mum's Samoa and my dad's Pākehā. So I just did this thing about tribalism and kind of where you fit in. Yeah, it was like a celebration of being different but not knowing where you are, kind of thing. So, but at the time, I wasn't thinking that. I was just making them. I was going, this at the moment doesn't really make. Don't know what I'm doing, but I think it's going to make sense later on. So, a lot of the times it does work like that. But then after that, I sort of came back, and then what did I switch into? The birds or architecture. It was architecture, yeah. Yeah, I guess, the ideas, trying to answer your question, it's sort of like something affects you, and then you kind of look at it more and more and more, and you go, yeah, I think I can do something with that. It's not usually, a lot of other artists get affected by other artists, but I kind of like ideas that are just raw, like clay kind of thing, like that's not involved in the art world. I think I can do more with those. I love movies. Movies, I got movies, music, and then art. I put them all on the same sort of level. Because when you watch a movie, it's sort of someone's hard yakking for about 8 months to put this together. So every little scene there's something in it. So you kind of look, oh yeah, I like that. The way they use the grey there, and the horizon lines up there or down here, like David Lynch and stuff. So,
can I ask you a kind of really big question? What do you think it is about images of the cosmos that make them so malleable to interpretation? Every society and culture looks at the night sky and puts something of themselves into the images they create of that. Yeah.
Well, that's universal for all cultures. Like, for a bad example, Subaru's got that the Pleiades thing they use on the cars, and that's the same as Matariki, and then the Seven Sisters. So it's all connected, like everyone, as you say, we're looking to try and define themselves by the stars. So I think, and then seeing them move, and they move around, and that just sort of makes everyone sort of start to think. But the ideas for me getting into astronomy, I've always loved science fiction, the movies and stuff. And then I started watching the real documentaries on the NASA ones and the Apollo missions, and then you kind of go, oh my God, this is incredible stuff. Because I just thought, it just happened, but I was born in 1970, it happened in 1969. So, so it sort of started from there. And then it was a coincidence, it was it was coming up on 50 years since the first moon landing. And I had the idea to approach Wellington museums and say, look, I want to do something about this, because everyone thinks it didn't happen. It's pretty significant, it's 50 years. So how about it? And I just thought they were going to say, laugh at me, and I said, yeah, okay. And then he got me up there, and it was just going to be one art piece, but then it turned into a 3-month residency. And so I've really got my teeth stuck in, and then just researching everything, and it just sort of blew me away. So you're kind of looking at all the engineering feats, and I love all the designs of the cockpit, all the suits and everything, and apparently that's what Andy Warhol painted the factory silver, because the first missions of the suits and that, with all the silver. So then you take it further and you start listening to guys like Neil deGrasse Tyson and Carl Sagan, and you watch all the documentaries, you watch that Cosmos one, and then the updated one, and then you start really kind of freaking out in a good way of how big everything is and how small and sort of insignificant we really are.
I love those images. I like as well about them is how you take them to the local, like Neil Armstrong landing at Lyle Bay, for example. And how, in some senses, the American culture landing in New Zealand is almost as alien to them as landing on the moon.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, it's that, because when I think as an artist, you can't just sort of regurgitate everyone else's sort of take on it. You got to have your own take, and I've always tried to have a bit of humour in there, because I think humour's good because it pulls people in, and then you can really kind of like, I think they're not really listening to what you're saying, because it looks like a joke, or then they're in. Because I've always said that when you have an exhibition and someone walks past your work and doesn't say anything, I think you failed. And you've got to hook them in. Like, the best reaction I ever had was this old guy, and he saw those sort of dance culture sort of prints I was doing. And because I'll show you this later. It was Renaissance sort of thing, and it looked kind of spooky. He was just shocked. He's just going, oh, it's evil looking, it's horrible. And I'm just like, oh, thanks. It's the most honest thing I've ever heard. You know, and he just like, it was fair enough. It just wasn't his taste. But at least he gave it to me, rather than just walking past and saying nothing. Mm. The space stuff sort of really changed everything for me. I still sort of was reading about it and listening to podcasts, and because it's all relatable, like sort of back to climate change and what's going on with the weather, and because that stuff you don't get in the news. You just get the the drama and everything, but you don't really get any kind of what's actually really going on. I've sort of read about what scientists are really trying to do, and actual facts of things, and that's how I sort of did the things about plankton in the ocean, and
Can I ask you more about that? Your latest works are inspired by, you mentioned the birth of the universe, flowers, and plankton. I guess the question I really want to ask is, why the birth of the universe? Why flowers? Why plankton? What is it about those themes that are pulling you so deeply in at the moment?
So eventually I kind of stumbled on the deep space photographs of the Hubble telescope that they finally got going. Was it 1990 something? And so they got this, $1 billion camera just outside Earth's orbit. So they're deciding what to do, and they go, "We're going to point it." So they go, "Let's just point at that black space there." And they say, "Well, why don't I do that?" It's just like when you point at something is there, like, some genius said, "No, let's do that. Let's keep the shutter open for 3 days," whatever it was. And those first photos, and then you see that, and of course, you're seeing it 30 years later, whatever. And then you go, oh my God, because they're saying that's going back almost to Big Bang, and then the light that's travelled from a dead star is coming towards you, and you just go, oh my God, it just freaks you out, in a great way. So it's just that thing of that deep field thing of these lights coming towards you that from a dead star, getting your head around how light travels. It's just still kind of freaks me out. And then going, I can't just sort of say that because it'd be like an illustration. So I got to sort of set it off with the plankton idea of so plankton's so minute and essential for the food chain in the ocean, but also absorbs carbon dioxide. So I mean that sort of should be taught in schools. You know, it's just that amazing little thing. They reckon. I mean, all the scientists all got the different opinions, but they reckon it's as important as trees. So, whereas trees store the carbon, and the planktons, and what,
Your work on murals, you've done some very large and spectacular public murals. Can you talk us through the process of doing commissioned murals, how much artistic freedom you have, those sorts of things?
Okay. Well, the murals sort of came about from walking to the studio, because I just lived sort of around the corner and looking at these walls that were getting tagged all the time. And Wellington's got a lot of big retaining walls, real old ones, and they're quite sort of textural and that. I just thought, I've always sort of liked Diego Rivera's murals in San Francisco and Mexico City. So I was like, it's like Gaudi sort of doing shapes in Barcelona, but Diego Rivera's all about sort of socialism and Mexico and that. So I thought, one day I probably might do something like that. And I don't think I'd ever done anything prior. Well, not as big. I'd done like a few sort of small sort of paintings on the outsides of buildings, but it was more about what the school wanted. But this one was like, I can probably do something about Mount Cook, and that's the best bit about doing murals is researching the area. So this area, we're in Aotearoa, so that area of Mount Cook is it's always been like a sort of military area. So Māori had their pa there because you could see all the enemies coming, and then when the colonials got here, the pa was abandoned. Well, that's what I read on some research papers. And then colonials wanted to set up there, but then I heard Māori heard that the colonials were setting up there and came back and kicked them out. But more or less, sooner or later, the colonials took over it, and then they set up sort of an army base there, and then it became a military camp, and then it became a prison. So it was and the prison sat over the city. And there's old photos of it, and it looks horrible. It's just this sort of dystopian sort of looking thing. And the prisoners actually built the prison as well. There's bricks in Mount Cook with these arrows on them, and it's the old police station that's on the corner there. Yeah, it's a real good sort of history, sort of showing sort of all the bricks with the arrows on them, and. I was in this band briefly, and we used to practice there. But at night it was pretty spooky. It just had that kind of history. You felt it. Like I think it was old sort of not prison cells, but holding rooms for them. And it was like sort of really small spaces. So I was going, how am I going to put all this into a mural? But because the council were paying for it. And then, you just sort of go through this draft process, and they go yes, no. But we got most of the ideas that I wanted up there with the big horse. They're called the Massey Cossacks. So there was a big riot in Wellington in 1910, and it was there was not enough police here. So the national government at the time got all the farmers from up north to come down because they could ride horses. And they were called the Massey Cossacks, and they helped sort of contain the riots. And I remember this guy walking past one day, he was looking really unhinged. I knew he was going to say something, so I was painting a mural, and I'd just done the big Massey Cossack. He started going on about communism and socialism and kind of all sorts of sort of swear words and that. But I was just saying it was a really good reaction. Like he sort of gave it to me, and I go, yeah, okay, I'm just sort of putting this up here, and it's just like I'm not agreeing with it. I'm just saying this is what happened. So so it's just also about how Mount Cook used to be a peak, kind of like Mount Vic, but they flattened it out. They took it down 30 metres or something, to flatten it out. So yeah, that's the best thing about murals. It's you learn about the area, and then hopefully people can see it and kind of get a lift out of it. Hopefully.
I'm going to ask you a question. When I look at your work, I think that you're trying to imagine a better future by reclaiming the past. Would you agree with that statement? And if you do, could you talk to us about that?
Ooh, absolutely. I think that's that thing of because we're kind of, and especially now, we're living in this world where it's like, clickbait and algorithms that are geared up for negativity. Like, so people get reactions, and we're reading all about that. So the early days of Facebook and the way that the algorithm was geared not for negativity, it was geared for reactions, and the best reactions you can get is out of negative things. It's like the news, like the news is it's always one bad story after another. So I guess it's sort of, in a way, I'm trying to find the good stories and then tell them. And then some of the stories, just sort of, it's not whether it's good or bad or not, it's just it did happen. And people can learn from it, because there's too much black and white at the moment. There's not enough the grey, and that's what most artists are into, is the grey areas. Like, nah, it didn't happen like that. It happened like this, and the way people sort of box things and frame them up, kind of like museums do. They say this is this type of culture, but culture's always developing. It was just that they should rephrase it. Culture at that time. I think it's that thing of things are always evolving, and they're not set in concrete. So, sort of that architecture stuff's about utopia. I don't think it's possible, but I think it's, you kind of, it's like anything, you sort of aim, you kind of try to make things look better. I mean, because I love good design. I spent, I was in Japan last year for 3 weeks, and it's the mecca of good design. Everything works really well. And I just love it. And they just like, if you can do something, and they do it so well, and they're the best printmakers. I bought some Japanese prints in there that from the 18th century. It's come with different frames, and just really influenced by Japanese design and the prints and stuff. Because you look at their society, and it's quite an amazing society. But then it wasn't always like that. They were sort of shoguns, and they were imperial before World War One.
What I love about their society is how they managed to integrate their past and their cultural past, but in a modern context. They're constantly re-evaluating it, taking it. Like, I know the woodblock prints are still used, but not as a historical thing. They're a very modern Japanese practice.
Yes, and they don't use the presses. They're into your hand burnishing. So it's like, and I'll sit in the studio, it's the size of a bathroom, the legs crossed, and I'll just sort of sit there and do it. And the registration, it's just, you got to line that up if you're going to do it. But they just they know what they're doing. This is incredible. The craftsmanship's is next level. So I think, learning through other cultures is a really good thing. You kind of, because as an artist, most artists, you're always like looking for new things you can use, and put in there and disguise them and then make them your own. Everyone does that. And that's how you learn. So I think that's that thing about me liking. I love visual artists, but I'll get more out of a musician than I do out of an artist. So I kind of go, what are they thinking? Where did they get the idea from? Where were they? I like all that stuff.
I was wondering about that, your approach to your art as well, that kind of like, you take elements from all sorts of places
Yeah.
and go, I like that, I'm interested, that kind of connects to it, and
Yeah.
you know, that kind of almost like magpie
Yeah.
silver things
Yeah,
you're going
yeah.
to put in the nest, so the nest full of beautiful silver objects.
Absolutely. I think it's a thing, like at rainy day kind of thing. Oh, yeah, I'm not there yet, because I'm trying to, I'm dabbling in some Japanese sort of iconography at the moment, but, I don't want to just sort of collage, crowbar it in. I want it to kind of go there naturally, and it will sort of one day. But yeah, that's my sort of ideas up there, and then you can see my Japanese stamp. That's like for hope. I was going to start doing, instead of signing works, I was just going to do like a Japanese stamp, but they sent me the wrong size. It's meant to be half the size. I think the hardest thing is, it's just sort of limiting yourself and going, okay, I can't do all this at the same time. Yeah. Just sort of get to the end of this, I think, and then so I'm sort of, this is part of that, so I'm kind of working on those two. That will always keep continuing. This is something I've sort of recently done, so it's funny you say that about music. Like, I always thought an exhibition should be like an album. You should like have the album's got sort of seven, sort of 6 or 7 really good tracks. Then there's about 3 or 4 that just they've gone off on a tangent. Yeah, so I think an exhibition should be like that. You'd have 1 or 2 pieces where you show where you're going next.
I guess if I'm going to go deeper into that question, is how do you know when something works for you? You look at it, yes, it's got that personal bit, it's got that cultural bit, it's got universal. That's when it starts to sing to me, use a musical term.
Oh, right. I think that the key is to work on 3 or 4 things at the same time, and then you'll have something to measure it against. Because it's sort of that thing of, you've got the idea in your head, and at the same time I need it to look good. I need it to sing, to be harmony and everything. Because I think that's how you make a decent piece of art. Is like you got to impress yourself first, and then I think it should be all right to send it out. Because I think afterwards it's like the sort of see you later, kind of. But I guess the balance is like I like to spend a couple of months on something, but at the same time you'll be working on something that you started 3 months before that. So it's making sure you've got this kind of, I suppose, a conveyor belt of things and all sizes, and then just keep experimenting. Because I want to get back into video work as well. That doesn't pay, but it's a lot of fun. Yeah, I always thought that it'd be a good idea to have an alias as well, and all these other ideas I've got, but I kind of go, it's sort of too commercial. But it's not the thing about making money, it's just sort of like, do people really like this stuff? And then you kind of see the reaction. I love the reactions. Yeah, I think that's about it, eh?
That's awesome. Thank you so much for that, Sheyne.